2 Samuel chapter 11, beginning at verse 2. One evening David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanliness. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." That particular reading from 2 Samuel chapter 11 conveys the truth that is as clearly seen, isn't it? This is the sin of David. The clearest thing you can notice about this text is almost the elimination of Bathsheba from the text. And I think that's on purpose to highlight David's sin and moral culpability. Bathsheba is not really the focus because she has no say. She has no ability to change her circumstances. In fact, every information that we're given in our text about Bathsheba highlights that she is a woman of purity. She is obeying Israelite law. And the information we receive about her should have conveyed multiple things to David, all of which should have removed the decision that he eventually took from his even mind. Being Bathsheba, it looks like she is the daughter of Eliam, which means she is the granddaughter of Ahithophel, who is a respected leader within David's community. She is also married to Uriah the Hittite, but his name is a clear meaning within Hebrew, even though he has a Hittite background, which demonstrates that he is been in David's care, within David's army, within Israel for a period of time. And we'll find out later, of course, that he's a man of intense integrity. So Bathsheba is a woman of integrity in our passage here. By her bathing there has no connotations of sexuality on her part, because she would have assumed that a lot of the troops are away. She's on a place that cannot be seen unless you're the king, walking and pacing up on your own roof. And David's character is the one that's at play here. Nothing about Bathsheba in that sense. Verse 2 communicates that straight away, doesn't it? And I'm sure as you heard it, you hopefully felt a little on edge, this is disappointing, but hopefully you felt a lot worse than that. This is altogether wrong. You felt slightly, I shouldn't be reading this, or this shouldn't be in the Bible, or this shouldn't be done by this particular man. And I think that's what he's wanting us to see here. David has been a man, remember, who it's said is a man after God's own heart. And you look at this and it's like your best friend you're watching in a video doing something terrible and you want to yell out, "Stop it." And the sheer simplicity presented here is meant, I think, to shock us into thinking, what on earth were you doing, David? In fact, I know what you were doing, and it's altogether horrendous. And I think that's the shock we're supposed to feel. A shock of his character, a shock of his decision making, and we'll see in the couple of days to come that that does not change. Verse 2, as I said, begins our text today. One evening David got up from his bed and walked around from the roof of his palace. So he gets up, seemingly innocent, but we know that as he's become more powerful, he's less likely to be involved in the military campaigns, much like the nations around him. And he parades around or walks around his domain on top of his roof, surveying, either from boredom or just because it's hot, we're not told. From the roof he saw a woman bathing. Now, we could have hoped for a different reaction. David is a man after God's own heart, a man who has made lots of good decisions in life. But he's also been a man who's made some impetuous decisions. And when he looked, he should have turned away. That is what we know a man of integrity would have done. Because this woman, as we'll discover, is just bathing after her time of ritual impurity. And he should have known what to do. But instead he does the complete opposite. And David sent and the woman was very beautiful. And in the text it should say beautiful to look at. And David sent someone to find out about her. Now, why does he need to find out about her? He doesn't need to find anything out about her. He's already married. He doesn't need more wives or concubines. We've already seen that this is not a positive sign for David. So whatever information he's finding out cannot be to his own advantage. The only thing in his heart at this point is lust, because she's beautiful to look at. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Now, even David's desire for more concubines or sexual partners should have told him right away, stop, and that's it. But verse 4 sadly continues on. David sent messengers to get her. He'd been sending messages all throughout the last couple of chapters of 2 Samuel, generally to find out information, and we had sending messages to the Ammonites, and all sorts of messages have been sent out to the variety of armies and receiving instructions to Joab. But this message is altogether ungodly, and it sets forward a series of messages that David sends out that only result in his own selfishness and lust taking over his own good sensibilities. In fact, his good sensibilities are called into question in the remainder of this text. David sent messages to get her. She came to him and he slept with her. Now remember, I said at the start that there is no indication here of Bathsheba's attitude to any of these events. That is not the important aspect here. Now you may be thinking, that should be important. We should be getting her perspective. But the aim of the text here is really to demonstrate David's culpability, David's moral failings. So we're not left with any questions about whether Bathsheba consented or not, because, of course, the consent was only on David's part, because David's the one who's instigated every aspect of this text. David saw, David inquired, David sent for, David took. Bathsheba is just, like a lot of people in our text will see over the next couple of days, a participant in the text because the king is in charge. The king decides, the king takes. Remember, the king is supposed to be a shepherd. The king is supposed to be a server of the people. David is just merely serving himself, and that's what is highlighted here. David is a man, sadly, after Adam's own heart, not God's in this example. He sees and takes, like all kings can do, and so David is behaving like a man of the flesh, not like a man after God's own heart. And that is what the author is wanting us to see. David is morally culpable for his decisions and therefore the consequences that flow from them. The text continues in verse 5. After she was sent back home, the woman conceived. Now notice there, it's a change from the name Bathsheba, because it's not that the writer is saying she's unimportant. We're getting David's perspective. She was beautiful to look at. And now, once he sent her away, he's had his way with her. He expects nothing more from her. He expects not even to see her probably ever again. And so the woman he sent away, she's had complete lack of power in this text. David's had all the power, and he sent her away. But just at the very point where this woman has gone from being Bathsheba to a woman again, a woman that he does not now need to care about, she says, "I am pregnant." And so we're left at the end of our story here with a king who has now facing up to the consequences of his own behavior, and we're going to wonder what's he going to do. But just to end with this, David's behavior is entirely reprehensible in our text, and that's what the scriptures want us to see. He's a man who has seen, he has taken, he should have not looked, or even if he did look, he should have refused to go any further. And so his adultery in this case and potential rape of Bathsheba is seen for what it truly is, a complete moral failure on behalf of David. And it's a demonstration of the descent that people can take when they start to operate from their lusts rather than from their faith. And David's sign will be a sign that the small choices he makes have disastrous consequences, not merely for himself, but also for the people around him. Amen.